Sam Bloom runs partnerships at PMG, has advertising in his DNA going back 3 generations, and came back for round 2 with me because apparently he enjoys pain. This is the ADOTAT Show.
Welcome back to the ADOTAT Show, the place where ad royalty wanders in, spills hard truths, and then wonders why they ever agreed to this. Today's returning guest is a certified legend, the head of partnerships at PMG, Sam Bloom, a man who survived 1 full episode with me and still showed up again, which is either heroic or deeply concerning. Sam, round 2. Let's see before his PR team panics again. So first of all, how are you honestly? And don't give me the blessed and thriving stuff.
Look, it's Monday of Cyber Week, so it's all hands on deck here. I think the first thing is, I just hope, a whole year comes down to, these 14, 15 days. And so I think that's one piece of where I am. I think the other piece is I'm sitting here, it's mid 30 degrees in Dallas, Texas. And I'm like, WTF, why is it so cold in Dallas, Texas right now?
Yeah, it was 40-something degrees in Phoenix today. And it's just humid enough that my windshield won't stop fogging all the time.
But, at a macro level, it's hard not to feel that there's change everywhere right now. And in our industry. And so, I have just as much anxiety as everyone else in our industry.
Can you translate that into English? Do you mean like changing like a butterfly or changing like a dumpster fire that simply glows a different color each quarter?
Well, I think you and I talked about this last time. I've always viewed our industry as a fashion business, and the fashions come in and out. And what I would say right now, we are in fast fashion, and there are definitely.
Thank you for not using the word evolving. I appreciate that. Because I'm tired of people saying the industry is always evolving.
So, look, there is no question. There is a lot of pressure to automate. There's a lot of pressure to leverage AI. There is a lot of pressure on staffing. There's a lot of pressure on results, and I think, all those things, it's hard for them to all coexist at once, to be honest with you.
So you have more experience than a lot of the people we have on our show, and frankly, so do I. So do you think that experience changes your view of the next 3 to 5 years?
Yeah, it does. It does. So I think, first of all, to your point about a dumpster fire, I think about our industry as like a forest, and there is deforesting that occurs, and with that comes reforestation, and so it's hard not to acknowledge we are in a massive cycle, and there will be a changing of the guard for certain. And so I remember distinctly back in the early programmatic days, every firm that came to you said they were a DSP. And then I would go talk to the SSPs and I would say, hey, tell me about the bids in the back end. What do you see? And they'd be like, the bids are the same. And I'm like, nope, they're not net, or it's not something that's intelligent. And so I would sort of say right now, everything coming at us, they say they're AI. It's not clear, who's really reinventing or who's just pretending. And I think it takes a lot of energy to sort the wheat from the chaff.
So if an advertiser came to you today and said that they thought, let's say, cookies were going to make a comeback, would you even allow them near your calculator?
If last touch attribution worked, your waiter would get full credit for the meal. We make sure the chef gets credit too. Incremental.
Would you take them to a nice farm where old marketing fantasies go to grace?
Look, I think the problem is that we're in a world where there's a little bit of everything. So not all cookies are gone, but it's not the whole picture is the problem. And then the other side of the equation is, there are walled gardens or hedged gardens that are performing and scaling quite well. So those are options too. And so but look, at the end of the day, cookies are going to die a death or cease to be scalable at some point. And so
it's definitely of 1,000 cuts.
Yes, for certain.
Also said, to go back to AI, when you say AI is going to transform things, what is it going to transform specifically? And have you seen anything that actually impresses you a lot yet?
Yeah, I have. I think the first thing that I think about, one is we're a people-based business. And the first piece is we have people who, there's a lot of strain in the system, both at the client side and the agency side and the pub side, quite frankly. And so there has to be a relief valve on some of the work. Some of it's very manual. So I think the first piece that I go to is how do we automate things that are, that are time intensive and labor intensive. And it's everything from trafficking to auditing all the way to your reporting. There are lots of things that are very labor intensive. And I think that's number one is how do we take work that's not thinking work and reduce it so that people can focus on the more strategic and creative parts of our business. I think that's number one. And I really feel I really worry about the mental health of people in our business because it is a lot of long hours.
I've always been worried about our mental health.
Yes.
And in this business.
For certain. And I want there to be joy in this job. It's a super fun industry and it's super interesting. But I also think we shouldn't spend 70% of our time on, planning, buying, trafficking, reporting, billing. All that stuff sucks and nobody wants to do it. And, one of my missions is...
Can we really, though, trust AI to buy media? I mean, when push comes to shove, if two AIs get together, how do you know they're how do we know they're planning for what's best for us?
I think the issue is how do you build systems and processes with humans in the loop? And that I think a lot about that, which is I do not want to remove that human control. But what I do want to do is...
So there's still someone always that should press execute.
I think that's the case for the time being until, but look, there's some platforms that we all know, certainly some of the walled gardens. You can certainly automate the heck out of things because you don't have a lot of levers.
And Eric Troutman, the czar of the TCPA, isn't just the guy you call when your phone rings too much. He's the guy you must call. Need to navigate the legal minefield of robocalls, texts, and telemarketing nightmares? Troutman doesn't just give you advice. He hands you a roadmap, a compass, and a do not press this button sign. Practical? Yes. Actionable? Absolutely. And if you're not calling him first, let's be honest, you're probably making a mistake.
I heard there's still some intern in the background still planning that. It's not really an AI.
By the way, I think there's some truth to that, but I also think, in some platforms, for example, you don't control a lot of the bidding or the optimization, but you can certainly control the creative levers. And you can certainly control, what you suppress. And by the way, I think we need to spend as much energy on the suppression as we do on the targeting and other things. And I think what you don't do also defines what you do,
What you do. So how has the AI frenzy shifted your decision making? Are you thinking if you're more bold or less, or you're avoiding any meetings that start with Agentic?
Well, look, it is certainly the most overused word in our industry right now at the moment.
Right. Everything's Agentic now. It was AI, now it's Agentic, which is, I think, isn't it kind of the same word?
Yes and no. Look, I think I'm in a partnership role. So, I get to see a lot of what our partners are doing on the AI side. And what I would sort of say is I like it when I start meeting.
That means you get pitched a lot in fancy restaurants.
That's right. Well, or in my office or, wherever. I'm not
a lot of sushi.
But, by the way, the beautiful thing about being in Dallas is we're in the proverbial Omaha. So it doesn't really, in our ad industry.
Well, it's also a hub for American Airlines, I think, right?
That's right. We got a lot of big companies here, AT&T, Southwest Airlines, and numerous others. But I think at the end of the day, I love it when a company comes and says, hey, here's the problem we're trying to solve. And when I see that Agentic can solve or AI can solve that solution and do something that you couldn't do before or make something way easier or solving a legitimate problem, that's something that catches my eye. When it's something that is not really doing either of those things, generally I'm unimpressed. And I think we're in a weird period. We're in such the first inning of all this stuff that I think there's a lot of rush to go build things that look AI or look Agentic, but it's really the same old crap. And I think that is to be avoided.
Have you ever just wanted to say that in a meeting? I think
say that all the time.
this is just the same crap I've seen, but you You just put .ai at the end of it now.
It's for certain. And I think, look, I mean, every once in a while you see something. Now, that being said, the biggest fear that I have, I generally don't fear the big agencies. I actually fear the two gals or the two guys in the garage that are building something from the ground up more than I fear the big ones. And I think that's where we have to tune our attention to, because there's some purity in terms of how they're approaching some things. And scarcity, I think, creates a lot of creativity.
Speaking of your biggest fear, if AI replaced you tomorrow, what part of your job would it fail at first?
It would fail at the relationship side, number one, for certain.
That might be my A, predicting client existential crises. B, surviving.
That's for certain. Look, I mean, there's no question the stories in people's heads in our industry, whether it's client side, publisher side, agency side, I mean, that's the thing we're all battling, is what's between our ears.
Well, humans are the ultimate bug in every system.
Yeah.
So you have to have a human to debug that.
For certain.
If you could whisper one warning to every executive about AI before they embarrass themselves on stage, what would it be?
Ooh, that's a tough one. Well, it's not going to solve our industry's ills. Let's put it that way. I would whisper one thing is AI is not a strategy, and I think that's the problem. I mean, AI, it's like saying oxygen is, is important. Of course, yes, it's in the air. But I think AI, as with a lot of things that happen in our industry, it's both overhyped and underhyped all in the same vein. And I think that the problem is oftentimes what people emphasize. People emphasize the AI doing things for us versus us telling the AI how to do something. And I actually think that that's the piece of this that's the biggest thing I'd sort of see. You still need expertise. The AI is not expertise. The AI can certainly bring you automation and good ideas and some of those things. But to date, I mean, no one's talking about AGI in this business. So at least not now.
So I feel like I ask anyone in CTV this. Are we at the point where CTV is finally the beautiful, scalable future that we were all promised? Are we still trapped in the Kafkaesque novel that was written by Roku, Samsung, and I guess the Trade Desk? Like, when do we get that?
I think CTV, look, I mean, I think we're at a major milestone for certain. And
what is that milestone? Is it like, are we the awkward teenager yet?
It's just time. I mean, we've hit some, some escape velocity, certainly on time spent as a relate.
And in a life cycle, are we like, is this puberty, awkward teenager? Have we figured out deodorant at least?
CTV, we're graduating high school and we're about to enter freshman year. And I think I think we're in a pretty good place on it. Now, just keep in mind, sports is so dominant in everything. That's really, so you asked me kind of like where we are in CTV right now. Look, we still need pod positions. There are some things that are missing that we don't have in linear TV quite yet, but I think that all that's coming, right?
Why?
Look, we need the IAB to agree on some standards on that, but the other thing is the technology of it is hard. That's the one thing. People forget. I remember last year or 2 years ago, I went to go see a WWE event, and I watched how they were doing all the insertions from all the trailers. And, fast forward, we were a buyer in several Netflix fights, and, and they were doing it from the same kind of trailer, inserting ads, right. In the linear broadcast. And so it's hard. It's hard to do it. It's hard to make sure the consumer experience is good. And I think that's a big piece of it. But look, that's coming. But the sports piece, both in terms of consumption and in terms of the tech, is hard. And I think, over time, the chipping away at sports as you start to see rights being bifurcated, to multiple digital partners, that continues to put, linear TV at risk. For the moment, it seems like linear TV is doing just fine. Maybe not pay TV, but, certainly live sports. But when you remove that, it looks very pedestrian, and CTV is kicking the shnikey out of, cable and those kinds of things. So, and local. And so I think CTV is in a great spot, and it's scaling quite well. And we have an array of choices, right?
Right. What's one metric, however, that you I think everyone's worshiping and they shouldn't in CTV.
I think attention gets overplayed on the big screen, to be honest with you.
Right.
I think, look, I mean, I think part
Doesn't everybody watch what they're watching? So they're either in front of the TV or not in front of the TV, which is kind of what Telly, I think, is trying to do. If you're in front of the TV, it's assumed you're looking at.
Well, look, I mean, some of the companies I really look toward in that space are folks like T-Vision, and where
Right.
they have very granular, specific data, and you can really learn something
Right.
in that
And
data.
what do you usually learn?
Well, I mean, what you find is there are certainly some contextual environments that do better than others. You certainly find when your ad loses people and when they are not engaged. I mean, their panel, what they're doing is quite something, and we can also see relative vis-a-vis competitors. And I actually think that's a bigger piece, is understanding attention. And by itself is not that interesting. Understanding it relative to other brands and competitors and other folks in the category, really important. And understanding the programming that's, sort of doing the heavy lifting, I think is super interesting. But attention as a KPI, I don't love it. I mean, I've always hated, sort of like, the metric of like, oh, your view through rate or whatever is 95%. I mean, that's ridiculous on a TV. Of course it is. I mean, but I think the bigger issue is more, it's not those kinds of metrics. It's actually the quality of the inventory you're buying. That's the area I worry quite a bit about CTV, because there's a lot of crap, and there's going to be more and more crap because of AI and AI slop. And so those are things I do worry about. I mean, it's no secret YouTube has done really well on the big screen. I worry about, what's crap and what's not crap. On platforms that are not, showing scripted shows or sports and things like that.
So when CTV graduates college, using that same metaphor, what will surprise advertisers the most about its adult personality?
I think people will be surprised how versatile it is, that it can do, low funnel, mid funnel, upper funnel. And I think I think today it gets relegated to one parts of the funnel, and I think it's incredibly valuable across the.
Let's move from platforms to people and agencies. Agencies love claiming they're transformational partners, but half the time treat clients like they treat DoorDash for banner ads. So my question to you is, what does a modern agency actually need to do to survive in a world where clients want lower CPMs, higher performance, and emotional support?
Well, I think the first piece is they want a partner that understands their business and can empathize with, their business situation. And I think that's number one. These are very human kinds of things. When I think about the stuff that's really important under the hood, I mean, one thing that we work really hard on is you need clean data, you need structured data, you need contextualized data to be able to provide clients insights very quickly in the moment. And I think that, that's important, because that gives you a command of the business. Coming back to point one, when you understand what you're doing and you understand sort of, what the inputs are and what the outcomes you're trying to drive, and you can connect those two things, I think that's what clients want, is a partner that knows exactly what the next step is and also what to avoid.
So when a client says they want transparency, do they actually want transparency, or they don't want a scapegoat, like something they could email at 9 p.m., like when their dashboard doesn't work?
That's a really
what does that mean?
By the way, I think this is one of the bigger conundrums that I see, is clients say they want transparency, yet they continue to buy from large holding companies with, buying practices. And so I think in that particular case, it's the CFO or the procurement team, and the CMO kind of laying down for those things. So I do think, we see lots of talking out of both sides of their mouths. Now, that being said, I don't think agencies have been just as complicit in this whole conundrum along with the publishers. So the incentives are not aligned, that is for certain. And I wouldn't be the first to point that out, but I think that's the world that we live in. I choose to view that, for the clients, because we don't participate in principled media, and I don't begrudge those agencies that do, but I have to remind clients, in our world, that they're making a choice to truly understand the media choices and the media cost, and the ingredients that we're putting into the recipe. And some clients really appreciate that, some clients don't, and that's just the nature of the beast.
So what is the wildest client request you've gotten? Something that like you had to email your boss immediately and say, I can't believe how dumb they are.
Well, we had something actually happen last week. We had a client, there was a viral video going around about how the client was doing some things around AI pricing.
Right.
And the video started to go wild, and we have no control over it, much less do we have no control over the platforms. And so those are the kinds of requests you get, from a client, and it's unrealistic that you can solve those things. You can certainly...
You're not their PR or Marcom team.
Not their PR, and certainly can't control the platforms. I mean, I think that's one of the challenges. And we didn't know much about the initiative. So, it was one of those things under the hood. So, there's nothing, look, wild requests come in every day, unreasonable requests coming in every day. That's the nature of the business. And that's what we do. And our job is either to try to solve or deflect.
So how do you think clients have changed in the past decade? Are they more educated, more chaotic, or more obsessed with TikTok?
I think it's all more chaotic. I mean, I think the pressure at the client is very high. I think there's a lot of macro factors that are affecting their businesses they have no control over. I think they're doing the best they can. The reality is that the lifespan of those, of our CMOs and our senior marketing leaders, it's short. And so there's a lot of pressure to demonstrate that they can drive value. And so I have a lot of empathy for them because it's a super tough business climate. And they're also dealing with consumers who are dealing with the same macro factors. And so, what I admire are those clients that are coming up with, I remind clients it's best not to be reactive. It's best to be proactive and to develop winning strategies versus being in a reactive mode. I think that is a bad place to live.
So agencies disappear tomorrow. What happens?
Look, I think I wouldn't be surprised to see a lot of things go in-house, but I also wouldn't be surprised to see a lot of boutique, as Dave Morgan says, just guys in a garage or just gals in a garage.
In Ukraine.
In Ukraine. But that's one of the things that, when I started in this business, there was certainly mystery is the word I would use. And there's some expertise that was on the agency side. And some of that has transformed over time. And now, we have multiple generations of client leaders that know the game. And, we're not curing cancer here, Pesach. It's, and so I think agencies have to be able to bring something more. If you're just simply an execution arm, you're in the wrong business because everyone can do that.
So you've remarked that retail media will reshape identity. Do you mean gently reshape or violently remodel like a contractor ripping out a kitchen uninvited?
Well, I think retail media, these are signals we just haven't been able to see relative to a client's first-party data set. And so I think there's a lot of things we can learn from retail media, certainly from consumption and life changes and seasonality of businesses and, also habitual behaviors. So I think there's a lot to be learned there. I think we're just scratching the surface.
At what point did you realize that retail media was more than that channel, but this huge gravitational force?
Well, it's interesting. I don't know if I think of it's a huge gravitational force. I think of it as, it goes back to our conversation about cookies. I think, as one form identity sort of disappears and other forms of identity and other signals appear. So I think it is a fresh new set of signals coming into the ecosystem that potentially can unlock some things for some advertisers. And I think that's really valuable.
So how are brands going to think about attribution and measurement moving forward?
Very mathematically, that's for certain. Look, I think the biggest challenge we have is winning clients off of last click. And I think that's going to be very, very hard to move them toward.
Are we talking about incrementality?
Incrementality, media mix modeling, certainly, other forecasting techniques that may or may not be on the table today. But there's no question that, clients need to move off of the last click because unfortunately it forces clients down a certain path that they miss the narrative if they just go down that path.
We've actually stranded you on a desert island before, but we're going to do it again because it seems why not? You didn't learn your lesson the first time. So what ad tech tool, platform, or brand partner would you irrationally bring with you, even though it's probably going to be useless, an ad tech island?
I'd bring Netflix with me because Not only would I get to consume it, but I'd also get a chance to buy it.
But if you don't have Wi-Fi, isn't that useless?
I would have Starlink, or is it Project Leon? Is the new Amazon one? Or
Really?
Leona, Project Leona? Yeah. Look, I mean, tech's what ad tech tool. It's funny when you think about an infrastructure standpoint. I'm one of those people. I love competitive intelligence tools, and to me, I could feast on competitive intelligence tools. I love them, and to me,
So
that's
who are you bringing with you to the island?
which one.
Which person?
Which person would I bring to the island?
Right.
Uh,
From the industry.
I think last time I told you Dave Morgan, and I
Yeah.
would probably continue to bring Dave Morgan because he's the world's most interesting man.
Right. What if he can't make a fire or catch a fish? Like, what happens then? Do you just get rid of him?
No, but I may
This
make
is survival. This is survival.
I
This
will
is,
make Dave go out and go run around the island and take selfies of himself because
Well, he can run. He could probably, he runs. Problem is like the whole buddy system. I think is like the natives attack you and he runs faster.
well, there's no. But first of all, Dave is super fit, and there's no question he would.
I think he actually runs to Ukraine. I'm actually 95% sure.
I tell you what,
Pictures
I love it.
Pictures on
He
the
is a
planes are
great
fake.
role model and all of that. By the way,
This is the second time I said on the show. When you said we're not like solving cancer and stuff, and people like pretending they're saving the world in ad tech, he kind of actually is. He goes over there, risks his life, and changes other people's lives. So he actually is saving people's world.
There's no question. Look, it's interesting. I'm
We'll just
one of
call
those.
this the Dave Show.
I'm really enthralled with people like Dave because he's a Renaissance man,
Right.
and we don't just talk ad tech. We
And
can
not
talk,
just the fluffy shirts.
Yes, that's right. We can talk political stuff. We can talk news. We can talk books. We can talk music, talk sports. We can talk outdoors. I mean, like, I'm very drawn to people in our industry that are well-rounded and kind of more Renaissance-y than anything else.
Yeah, he did a political fundraiser for a friend of mine. I had no idea. I was looking at, I think it was like Instagram or something. It pops up, or maybe it was Twitter or X, whatever it is. Like, two worlds collided.
It's amazing.
He's everywhere. Like,
He's everywhere.
moving on. How does your real survival instincts compare to your career instincts, you think?
Well, I'd say I'm probably a wimp in both of them for certain. I think what I'd sort of say is the one thing that I rely on in both is my curiosity. And that leads to me to be very solutions oriented. So I'm definitely, those two things collide around that piece. And I always ask, why something is happening, in both real world and in work world. And then try to put myself in a position to lean into the suck in some way, shape, or form.
Who from the ad industry would you least trust that they might eat you in order to survive?
Oh, I don't think there's any question. If somebody from a walled garden, I would get eaten. There's no question.
You find a mysterious suitcase on a beach. Inside is a working remote. B, a single ominous SFP contract. C, a TikTok influencer with a ring light. Or D, a meta rep who insists they can help.
Man, give me the TikTok.
Like, they'll get people there in a second. You know it.
Yes.
What is one lesson you would learn about the ad industry being stranded on an island?
Probably, how I always think how vapid it is when you're on an island and you're stranded. Nobody needs another ad or another taco to be advertised to you. On an island, in some ways, you'd be disconnected from it, and I'd be. There's days and times that I dream about that, about being untethered.
So moving to our safe space, even though it probably isn't, what actually drives you? Is it the honest engine? Is it curiosity? Is it fear, competitive spite, childhood trauma involving a banner ad?
It's probably all those things. I mean, it's funny. I'm a third generation advertiser, and so I think I'm genetically programmed to be in this business.
Was that on your dating ad? Third generation advertiser?
Yes. And we even have a fourth generation in the business now.
Right. Yeah, I'm not sure if that's supposed to be congrats or I'm sorry.
I don't know. But look, I mean, I think, I've talked about this a little bit. This is like the longest running sitcom. It's advertising. And
yeah.
And I kind of want to continue to see how it ends, And as long as I'm relevant in it, and as long as I'm helping clients and my fellow teammates do interesting things, I'm in, right?
So, is there a moment in your career where you completely messed up, you face planted, and you somehow grew from it like a weed in the front of my house?
Oh yeah, okay. Yeah, for certain. So I'll take you back to the Blockbuster days. So
Right.
I had moved on from Blockbuster, but came to the agency. And if you remember back in those days, we'd
Do
spend.
you still have your card?
Yes, I do. I'd spend $300,000 or $400,000 on a homepage, and we would do a lot of landing page testing. And one particular test, we totally messed up the recipes.
Right.
I got chewed out by the client. The results were very surprising because it turns out that the mismatched, landing page and ads actually outperformed the matched ones. And so one of the things I learned is we bias a lot of decisions based on what we think is going to work, and sometimes it's better to just let the test teach you versus biasing the test.
Do you think your view of success has changed since you started in the ad industry?
Yeah, for certain. I mean, I have to get a lot more. The outward accomplishments don't come in like they used to, and so you got to have intrinsic things that you enjoy. And I think today, one of the things I get the biggest kick out of is seeing the aha from my younger colleagues, and seeing them do things that I just can't believe my eyes. I mean, the creativity, particularly the technology, is just wild. I get a lot of energy from young people in this business.
So what part of you and your personality do you think people in the industry misunderstand the most?
I think I'm somebody that at this stage of my career, I think people tend to think that, you have designed a career versus it's sort of just unfolding. And I think what I would sort of say for me is I've been just, it's like the question at the end of how I built this every time, was it luck or was it skill? And I tend to fall in the luck category, and people think somehow you design these things or, and I sort of say, at some point, I do believe in a higher power, and I think there are things beyond our control. I know what I'd sort of say that people is like, I'm a kind of a happy accidental tourist along this thing. So
if you could go back and talk to your younger self, what would you tell yourself? What piece of advice would you tell about?
Just be patient.
Just be patient with yourself or in general?
All the above. I mean, you gotta.
I think we have to be most patient with ourselves. I think we don't realize that.
That's for certain.
And last but not least, what do you want people to take away from your career besides you just survived it?
I'd like to think, I think people need to understand how important it is to work as part of a team. And I don't think any individual accomplishments happen without great teams and great partners and people that believe in you and you're working side by side on. And so I think the thing that I think reflects the best on people is when you see how many accomplished people they work with and that have come out of that same sort of either team or era. And so that's the thing I'm particularly proud of, is that piece.
That was Sam Bloom, proving once again that the best people in this industry are the ones who've seen enough cycles to know when the emperor has no clothes, but are polite enough to hand him a robe instead of posting about it on LinkedIn. Massive thanks to our sponsors, Troutman Amin LLP, the lawyers who actually understand ad tech, which is either a superpower or a curse depending on how you look at it, and Incremental, because if you're still running on last-click attribution, Sam Bloom is personally disappointed in you. I'm Pesach Lattin. This has been the ADOTAT Show. Stay bold, stay curious, know more than you did yesterday.